have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup, and you can't see it on television, but I have a bad back today. So if I go into sudden spasm, I just want you to understand.
This woman is a trooper.
Please, let's get to the news.
Okay. Well,
or should we do this first?
Well, we should let you know, if you're watching us on Free Speech TV, that they're in pledge mode until March 27th. And that means that the show premieres on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time and gets repeated on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And we'll be back to
Eastern.
Eastern. Nobody else is affected. And you can always watch Gay USA online by going to www.gayusatv.org, pick up our audio podcast, our video on YouTube.
It's the same thing. It's just that in one you get to see us and the other you don't have to.
And we'll also let you know that next week our special guest is going to be James Essex, who is the attorney who is the director of the ACLU's LGBT and AIDS project. And we're going to talk about all the state legislation as we are today, but he'll give us a little bit more of a legal perspective on that.
Yeah, the ACLU is deeply involved in all these fights state by state. So, and it's very interesting because we're winning some and losing some, as we're about to find out. And
but we're not tired of winning.
Yet. But I'm eager to talk to James about all of the ins and outs of this, plus his trip to Italy in the midst of the fight over civil unions and adoptions.
But we're going to start our news in Missouri, where Democrats really stood up for us, a filibuster for 39 hours to try to stop an anti-gay constitutional amendment from going to the ballot. They failed, and the governor has nothing to say about it. Once the legislature passes it, it goes to the ballot.
Yes, and in Georgia, Republican Governor Nathan Deal is now giving a religious reason for opposing the anti-gay religious freedom bill.
But the Republican governor of North Carolina called a special session of the legislature just to subvert LGBT rights in Charlotte.
Because we're so dangerous. The United States Supreme Court, in better news, has reversed Alabama's refusal to recognize a lesbian adoption.
And wonder of wonders, the Alabama Supreme Court, led by Roy Moore,
he wasn't in on this decision.
Well, all right, but they ended a suit that was trying to enforce the state ban on same-sex marriage.
In Wisconsin, there's a woman appointed by Scott Walker to their Supreme Court and up for a full-time election to it, who has been revealed to have a virulently anti-gay past.
Yes. A federal court in Puerto Rico has restored the island's ban on same-sex marriage in defiance of the U.S. Supreme Court.
We're not a state. That's what he said. There is a breakthrough from Social Security for surviving same-sex spouses.
We will remember the record of Nancy Reagan on LGBT and AIDS issues.
Not great. LGBT rights have advanced in another Indiana city.
Caitlyn Jenner jumped the shark this week and came out for Ted Cruz.
I don't know that we were shocked by that, but the intensity of her support
we knew she was a Republican.
Things got worse in Indonesia and a little bit better in Colombia.
And I'll review Forrest Whitaker and Eugene O'Neill's Huey on Broadway and a show called Red Speedo off-Broadway. It's about the price of winning.
And we'll also review The Real O'Neills, the new ABC sitcom about a Catholic family with a teen gay son based on the writings of Dan Savage.
So after all those headlines, do we have any more time for the news?
Barely. We better get to it.
Okay.
Well, the big headline was Missouri, where they have proposed in the legislature not just a bill, but a constitutional amendment to their state constitution that specifically exempts basically everyone from having to deal with same-sex married couples. And they specify that this is about same-sex marriage.
Although it can have a spillover effect into other kinds of religious freedoms to deny rights to others.
It can, but it basically says if you can conjure up 1 ounce of purported religious feeling about same-sex marriage opposed to it, you can run roughshod over everybody's rights.
So the Democrats, and there's not very many of them in the state Senate, they staged a filibuster and they kept it going for 39 hours.
Without the help of Ted Cruz reading Dr. Seuss.
But the bill passed, the amendment passed, 23-9. Very discouraging. And as I said, Governor, is it Jay Nixon?
Yes.
He's a Democrat, and he has nothing to say about it. If both houses of the legislature pass it, it goes on the ballot.
Because it's not a bill, it is a constitutional amendment, but it does have to go to the ballot. Now, he doesn't have any power on it, but he did come out very forcefully against it, as have major corporations that do business in Missouri, including Monsanto. That was a little hard to take. And Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders were tweeting against it, and a lot of other politicians, Claire McCaskill and others.
23-9.
Yes, well, that is the state of the state legislatures, and that's why, you know, I saw Donald Trump this week in his acceptance speech after his celebration after he won primaries, saying, and we must make sure that Republicans retain control of the Senate so that we can get our bills through and get our agenda through. And I thought, oh my God.
We need Hillary and Bernie to be saying that all the time.
Exactly.
You know, they do.
And at the state level too, because this is what's happening at the state level. The governor, the corporations, the politicians are all against this bill, and yet the state Senate passes it right through.
But we had a nice reversal or breakthrough in Georgia. Governor Nathan Deal, a Republican governor, they passed a RFRA there, a Religious Freedom Restoration Act there, and he opposed it very strongly in religious terms. He said, Jesus reached out to outcasts. We are not jeopardized by those who believe differently from us, including those who get married to someone of the same sex. It was a fantastic statement. It's what we really want from everybody.
He said, take a deep breath. The world is changing. He is still trying to negotiate a better compromise on the bill. It hasn't, they're not finished with it yet, but he's been wonderful as a Republican governor in the South opposing this. And in Florida, they did reach a compromise on a proposed Religious Freedom Restoration Act there, where they held it to what are called the conventional pastor protections, which we don't care about because they're already in place.
Exactly.
Ministers do not have to perform weddings that they don't approve of.
In Tennessee, they've introduced a bill to force transgender students to use facilities inconsistent with their gender identity. It covers elementary through university.
Yeah, they're going beyond South Dakota's proposal. And in Franklin County, Tennessee, they're working on banning all school extracurricular clubs so that they can get rid of the gay-straight alliance.
They kind of did that when I was at the University of Virginia for a while. To go against the Gay Student Union, they defunded a whole bunch of organizations. That's how much they hate us.
Well, we've been reporting on these cases for years, and the fact is that they have to wipe out literally everything to be able to get rid of the gay-straight alliance, and evidently they are preparing to do that.
Right.
In West Virginia, however, the Senate has killed a bad Religious Freedom Restoration Act, so thank you to the West Virginia Senate. And in South Dakota, the House failed to override the governor's veto of the bad trans student bathroom bill. So that is dead.
Indiana isn't doing anything good for us, but Kokomo, Indiana, passed their LGBT protection bill 5-4 and has a second reading on March 14th.
Yeah. And in North Carolina. So Charlotte, North Carolina passed a non-discrimination law that includes sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression. And the governor and the state legislature are freaking out. This will destroy the state. This is the end of civilization.
So it's worth $42,000 a day for him to call the legislature back into session to overturn this somehow. He's appointed 10 senators to a committee to overturn this. Hateful. Hateful.
The Charlotte law goes into effect April 1st, and the North Carolina legislature is not supposed to come back into session till 3 weeks after that. So they are working to get the legislature back in session earlier so they can forestall the implementation of the Charlotte law. Because, you know, 3 weeks of non-discrimination in Charlotte, North Carolina.
You can't let the devil out of his box. You never know what will happen.
In Utah, the Senate has killed a proposal to add LGBT to the hate crimes law, even though it was proposed by a Republican senator, because the Mormons, as we said on another topic last week, do not want to upset the delicate balance that has been struck.
No, it's not making too much.
And in Iowa, the Senate has voted to add gender identity to their hate crimes law, but that still has to go to the House, so I don't know how that's going to go. We will follow what's going on in Iowa.
Want to talk about some of the legal decisions that were made this week?
Yes.
Well, in Alabama, relating to Alabama, the Supreme Court unanimously reversed the Alabama court's refusal to recognize a same-sex adoption that was granted in Georgia. Now,
to a lesbian couple.
That never married.
Yeah.
And have since split up. But one sought the rights vis-a-vis 3 children of the partner and who gave birth to the kids when they were together, and the adoption rights were secured then. In Georgia. So the
Can I try again with that to make it a little clearer?
Well, you know what? It's all about the full faith and credit. It's
Yes.
not about recognizing lesbian adoptions or anything like that. A contract was made or a
Yes.
decision was made in Georgia, and the Alabama court is saying if you got the adoption there, you're adopted. We don't invalidate it when you move to Alabama.
Yes, which was terrific on the part of the Supreme Court.
Is that better?
Well, there was a lesbian couple.
Yeah.
One had the 3 kids. The other was the co-parent. They split up. The non-bio mom wants visitation rights. That's why they were in court. The Alabama court said no, and the Supreme Court said, too bad, you're wrong. She does get to try to adjudicate visitation rights. And also from Alabama, the Supreme Court there, without going to the feds, rejected a right-wing challenge to same-sex marriage. In one sentence, they just said, forget it. We are not even hearing this suit. Yeah.
In Kentucky, the Supreme Court unanimously held that a lesbian co-parent has the right to intervene in an adoption proceeding initiated by the ex-partner's new husband. This is reversing the Court of Appeals there, and Lambda Legal is involved in that case.
There's also a representative in Kentucky who has proposed that we call it matrimony instead of marriage, and only opposite-sex couples would be allowed to have matrimony and get benefits adhering thereto. These people are really upset, and they are twisting themselves into pretzels to try to avoid dealing with us.
But here's a nice decision. The federal government has approved the first same-sex marriage in an immigration detention center. Tom Swan and the detained Guillermo Hernandez are set for a March 14th wedding. They were engaged before they were arrested. This is out in California.
Well, Guillermo's the one who's been arrested. He's undocumented, and so he's in the detention center, and so the feds will allow them to marry.
Right.
And here's another surprising story, which I predict will have other consequences. In Michigan, the Catholic Conference has announced that they will supply health care insurance for their employees, legally domiciled adults over 18.
This could be a sibling. This could be an adult child. It could be anybody.
But it can be a same-sex partner. Now,
we just don't want to know about it. Don't ask, don't tell.
Well, this is what the Catholic Church in San Francisco did years and years ago.
To keep their contracts.
Exactly. But here's my question. So the Catholic Conference in Michigan says, all right, we will supply health care insurance to any adult living with you of whatever relationship.
Aha, you're a homosexual, you're out.
Exactly. When you then show up
Just
for work.
don't tell us who it is.
When you show up for work and they figure out that you're a homosexual with a partner.
Who
then
is that? Who is that person?
Yeah, exactly.
You could say none of your business.
Yeah.
It is none of their business.
But perhaps the strangest and most outrageous story of the week comes from Puerto Rico, where a federal judge who had previously refused to approve same-sex marriage in Puerto Rico and then was presumably overruled by the Supreme Court Obergefell decision that legalized same-sex marriage everywhere in the United States, has now said, no, we are not part of that decision. We are not liable to it because we are an unincorporated territory, and clearly that decision was written only for the states.
Lambda Legal, it's their case, is horrified, and they say the Obergefell decision applies to states and territories. The U.S. Court of Appeals, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit, in which Puerto Rico sits, had already invalidated the ban on same-sex marriage there.
Yes, this is a rogue decision by another desperate right-winger.
But in Texas, Lambda's been very busy. They resolved the case versus the Social Security Administration on behalf of Kathy Murphy, a widow denied spousal benefits after the death of her wife. The Social Security Administration has also updated its instructions to staff. Her wife, Sarah, died in 2012 when Texas wouldn't recognize the marriage, but the guidance is now based on the date of the marriage, not where you lived.
Right.
Very, very helpful. You may want to look into this.
If you were legally married before the Obergefell decision, you were legally married in a state that did recognize it then, even if you moved to a state that didn't recognize it before the Obergefell decision, you can get the appropriate Social Security benefits. Now, evidently, they still have some tinkering with the regulations to do, but Lambda...
And they're going to train the staff at the SSA.
Yes, more on staff training later. Lambda Legal is ready, willing, and able to answer your questions about Social Security benefits. And they say if you contact them at lambdalegal.org/help, they will be happy to work with you on that.
Okay.
Illinois. You remember Colin Collette?
Yes, I do.
2014, fired as music director of the Holy Family Catholic Community in Inverness, a suburb of Chicago,
right,
because he announced his engagement to his same-sex partner. Well, he has now filed a federal discrimination suit against the parish and the Chicago Archdiocese.
Now, he says, I'm not a minister. I don't set what the songs are going to be. I don't set what the liturgy is going to be. I'm the music guy. That's what he says, although the church defines it as a ministerial function, which allows them to discriminate. He also says, but there are a lot of other people who are entering into marriages that the Catholic Church doesn't approve of, and they're not getting fired. I ran all this by Art Leonard, Legal Eagle, Gay Legal Eagle. He says he ain't going to win.
Well, I would tend to agree with that, and certainly Art is the expert, but you may remember a few months ago we had the Fontbonne Academy in Milton, Massachusetts case where the food director won his case about being entitled to not be fired by the Catholic school because he married a same-sex partner. So I thought that was a great landmark decision, and I'm curious as to how these things are going to play out.
These are songs of praise to God, not food. Well, I mean, that's what they're trying to say.
Yes, so we'll see what the courts have to say about that. All right, back to other news.
Well,
should we do political news, or
we can do that. Sure, let's do politics.
The Republican candidates spent the week affirming their opposition to same-sex marriage and saying it rightly belongs to the states. We're past that argument.
John Kasich was supposed to be the best of the lot, right? He previously said he would sell to everyone. But if he was asked to participate in something that we don't like photographing a gay wedding, you shouldn't be sued. That's what he said.
Well, that remains a bone of contention in some ways, but this Republican argument that states define marriage is both right and wrong, because it is correct that individual states define the rules for marriage in their states.
And they differ.
They have different age requirements. They have different
closeness of relationship,
consanguinity requirements. But the federal government is allowed to say, as they did, for instance, in the Loving versus Virginia racial discrimination in marriage case, you can set your own standards to a certain extent, but you cannot violate the U.S. Constitution guarantees of equal protection and due process.
Right, and all these Republicans want a new Supreme Court that is going to overturn the Obergefell decision and the Windsor decision and all these decisions.
Unlikely.
Well, you just need 5 votes. You know, I mean, if we lose one of ours and they can get, seriously. Well, Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson, a very conservative Republican, called for the permanent blockade of any Supreme Court nominee, not just by Obama, but by any Democrat who might succeed him, because that would unbalance the court. So they will just leave it at 8 members.
Unbalance means having to switch from a conservative court to a progressive court. Again, elect senators who will do it differently.
And you got another big decision in Wisconsin, and that is what are you going to do about the election of Justice Rebecca Bradley? She's an incumbent Supreme Court justice appointed by Scott Walker there. She was exposed for columns she wrote 24 years ago comparing people to drug addicts. They killed them.
When she was in college.
She was in a Catholic college, but she wrote this stuff in the paper. They killed themselves and others through their own behavior, said Bill Clinton was queer-loving, if only, and his election proved that the majority of voters are either truly stupid or entirely evil. She's now sorry if you're offended, she's sorry. I love those kind of apologies. So don't be stupid or evil or forgiving. I mean, the scab's been pulled off this. She's running against a woman named Joanne Kloppenberg. She does have an opponent. She also said things like, how sad the lives of degenerate drug addicts and queers are valued more than the innocent victims of more prevalent ailments. Oh, holy cow. Tammy Baldwin called this, she's the senator there, hate speech.
Well, it is hate speech. It's also 24 years ago, so I'm going to say...
I wrote some things 24 years ago, no, not 24 years ago, more like, for me, 40 years ago, that I'm not proud of.
I think we all have. I will certainly plead guilty to that. And I was struck by the difficulty the Democratic candidates had answering a question about racial blind spots.
Yes.
That was tough.
Yes.
That was tough. But I want to know what her record has been. I want to know what she has done. Has she faced any cases with gay issues? Or AIDS issues?
This may not mean anything to some of you, but she is a member of the Thomas More Society, which is a far-right, anti-gay legal society.
No question. Look, I don't like her. I'd like a more progressive judge to win. But if we're going to nail her, I would like to nail her on her current and future behavior to a great extent. Not that I am not going to spend the rest of the program condemning people like Nancy Reagan for their past behavior.
You would like her recent history to be at least looked at. So we can.
Absolutely, I would like her recent history scrutinized.
Okay.
I'd also like to have Donald Trump's statements about he could have made Romney drop to his knees in exchange for his endorsement 4 years ago.
In exchange for his large penis, I assume.
Evidently.
Although there's a group of kids on YouTube who are saying, show us your penis. There's a whole, it's very funny.
Well,
We can't show it on this show, but we have to talk about this stuff because there it is in the mainstream.
Yeah, and Ted Cruz is out campaigning with Brian Fisher, the absolute lunatic head of the American Family Association in Mississippi, who spends all day, every day, doing radio commentaries about how we should be killed and we are, the craziest, most horrible people on the face of the earth.
But that's not stopping Caitlyn Jenner, who said, Ted Cruz, He's nice. And Caitlyn wants to be his trans ambassador if he is president. Caitlyn, you're done. You've jumped the shark.
Well, this is, it gets weirder because what Caitlyn says is that she met him before she transitioned and he was nice to her. She evidently has not read anything he has said about trans people.
I have met many far-right wingers over the years, being on opposite sides of protests, who are nice people.
Some whose hands I've refused to shake.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I got a ride in a van once with a woman who was one of our chief opponents.
But I saw the first episode of the second season of I Am Kate. I remain convinced that this is a valuable program because
it better be. Caitlyn's taking a pay cut to do it because nobody's watching it except you.
They're doing it for me. That's very sweet of you. But look, every single person she's got in her posse were horrified at her statements about Republicans, yelling at her for this and trying to educate her. And she looked like a fool. She sat there saying, you know, stop talking about the Republicans like that. They're perfectly nice people. They're not mean to you. All they care about is reviving the economy and getting people jobs.
Can she read? Can she
Well, I assume she can, but I also assume she doesn't. And that's the problem. She just doesn't.
Well, she's got a reality show. She doesn't have time.
Well, it's discouraging because she is relentless about this. She is, you know, the whole premise of the show is she's out there traveling the country to learn and see people, but she's got the
not
wall
listening.
up. She has the wall
Right.
up. And then there was a fascinating discussion among all of them about dating men. And one of the questions has been about her sexual orientation, and because she was, you know, also adamant about the fact that she was attracted to women.
Right.
And so when she transitioned, people said, so, you know,
Why would that change?
Exactly. And are you now a lesbian or what? And now she says, I can not see ever dating a woman again, and I do see dating men.
Why?
Because she is beginning to find men attractive, and because she's a woman.
Okay.
So, and there's a viewer suggested that perhaps we were not talking about her as bisexual, but I don't think she identifies as bisexual. I think she identifies as
a Republican.
A Republican heterosexual.
Okay. Well, speaking of changing their tunes, the Log Cabin Republican Club, gay club, had been playing footsie with Donald Trump, but now they're going after him. And they're demanding to know where he stands on same-sex marriage. I've given you my position 150 times.
Sit down. And Bloomberg's out.
Yeah. Oh, did he come out?
No, I watched his ad. It was okay, but he looked so uncomfortable standing in a barber
This
shop.
was an ad that was prepared for him to run for president.
Yeah.
Now, in Kentucky, there was some good news. Rand Paul was bragging prior to the March 8th primary there, they had some special elections there for the legislature. Mm-hmm. Republicans had a chance to take the state legislature for the first time since 1925. Well, 3 out of the 4 seats were won by the Democrats, who maintained their majority in that House. So pay attention to these local elections. Thank you, people of Kentucky, for doing so.
Absolutely. And Mayor de Blasio in New York did this weird thing of issuing an executive order this week mandating that trans people have access to city-controlled bathrooms.
They already do.
Exactly. And in fact, it's not just city-controlled bathrooms. It's any place in the city. There is a non-discrimination law in this city.
Passed under Mayor Bloomberg. It's one of the few good things he did for us.
So it's nice to know that de Blasio sees supporting trans people as a political plus and is doing it over and over and over again.
Speaking of trans people, we now have Lily Wachowski, 48 years old, one of remember the Wachowski brothers who made all those movies, the Matrix movies, V for Vendetta, and everything.
Bound!
Yes.
One of the best.
Lana came out a couple of years ago. Now Andy has come out as Lily and is much happier.
So now it's the Wachowski sisters.
Right.
Major Hollywood force directing major movies.
All right.
In Rhode Island, Mount St. Charles Academy, a Catholic institution, has announced that it will not accept trans students. They don't acknowledge having any. They just are preemptively saying, don't even bother.
This has become a new prejudice that a lot of people have discovered that they have.
That you can't even have trans students in the room? So alumni got wind of this, and they're objecting. And they put up a change.org petition. They are, writing letters to the administration. And thank you to them for being a little smarter about this.
In Virginia, a federal judge, Thomas Selby Ellis III, rejected the argument that consensual bondage and S&M relationship is protected against government regulation under the 14th Amendment. It's a case of a student at George Mason who was expelled after his girlfriend said he violated the code of conduct, including BDSM. But the student was granted, however, summary judgment because the school violated his due process rights and free speech rights, since the case rested on his text messages in which he threatened to shoot himself if she did not respond.
Wait, so they
have established the principle that the school can, the government can,
so he's
raise
lost
objection.
now.
No, he won because he had to be reinstated because they violated his due process rights. But they said the issue that he raised about BDSM being a violation of the code of conduct was not legitimate. That they could expel him over that or do something to him over that.
Strange.
Yes.
All right, well, as long as we're in the school territory, let's have a happier story from Louisiana. We're going to have a local news report on this. At French Settlement High School, which is a rural high school in a town of 1,100 outside Baton Rouge in Louisiana, one guy asked another guy to the prom. But when he went to buy prom tickets, he was told he could not go. So he turned to his mother, and his mother supported him to a great extent. And here is the local news report with a couple little technical glitches, but we love it, so we're going to run it anyway.
2 hours ago.
The two students at French Settlement High School are gay and were originally told they couldn't attend the dance together. Tonight, school administrators have changed their minds. News 2's Brett Buffington here now with what sparked that change of heart. Brett.
Michael, this afternoon, the mother of one of these teens called News 2, so we called and made a few questions. The Livingston Parish School Superintendent did the same thing. It was a big question to answer.
Well, I didn't want to disappoint him and say no, and I definitely didn't know if I should say yes.
Yes to a night of dinner and dancing with their French Settlement High classmates. A night, as of this afternoon, this teenage junior and sophomore couple didn't think was going to happen.
Because we're both gay.
At lunch today, Raymond Touye went to get his tickets to tomorrow's prom. His party plans promptly halted, he says, by school's assistant principal. Raymond texted his mother, who called the school and asked that administrator for answers.
I asked her why Raymond couldn't take his boyfriend to prom, and she said that they didn't allow same-sex going to prom together. It was against school regulations.
Adding to the prom predicament, Raymond was then suspended for a day when the school administrator found out he'd messaged for help. We left a message with Livingston Parish's school superintendent, who didn't take long to sort this situation out. John Watson told News 2 over the phone into what happened and wouldn't tolerate being discriminated.
Your kid 100%, regardless if they're gay, straight, or anything.
Tonight, the school has backed off, banning the couple. Now they're excited they'll get matching black pants and purple ties, again to hopeful that school leaders will be a little more understanding in the future.
We're all humans here. It doesn't matter what race you are, what gender, what ethnicity, what orientation you are. It doesn't matter. It's just a person.
The school superintendent assured that he would thoroughly look into this incident tonight. It is unclear if that assistant principal will be facing any reprimand. Michael?
Very, very brave.
Isn't it great to see the local kids, the mom, the sister standing there? I mean, they're just...
If they can figure it out, why can't Caitlyn Jenner?
Well, the kid gets discriminated against. texts his mom, and she does two brilliant things. She contacts the school superintendent, and she contacts the media. And boom. And it's just fantastic.
I hope it all has a happy ending.
Yeah.
All right. Where else? Oh, and remember Idaho Senator Larry Craig, an appeals court ruled that he improperly used campaign funds to pay for his legal defense after his 2000 restroom arrest at an airport where he used his wide stance defense.
14 years later.
He has to reimburse the government $197,000 and pay a civil penalty of $45,000 for violating federal election rules.
All right, sports section of the news.
I'm finished. The court said his activity in the restroom did not relate to his campaign activities or official duties.
No? Who knows? HBO will air a pay-per-view Manny Pacquiao fight in April, but they have said that they found his anti-gay comments insensitive, offensive, and deplorable. But that will not stop them from making a little money off of
Nike
him.
got rid of him.
Meanwhile, Major League Baseball and the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce have announced that they are going to start an effort to certify gay and lesbian, bisexual, transgender businesses as suppliers to Major League Baseball. But the real news is in football, where the Atlanta Falcons football team has been revealed as having one coach at least, and maybe more, who asked an Ohio State recruit, "Do you like men?" Now, we've heard this before. This is not the first time we've heard this, but again, it's... So the coach has been sent for social training. They have trained, they're training the rest of the staff. He issued a boilerplate statement that it could have been written by a monkey on a typewriter. It's so standard and offensive, actually, and this is evidently routine behavior because they can't think of anything else to ask these recruits, so now they ask them if they're gay. And in response to this, a couple of things happened. A sports writer for the Chicago Tribune, who covers the Blackhawks hockey team, came out in a column in the paper. And a guy at ESPN Radio, Steve Mason, Chris Hine was the guy at the Tribune, Steve Mason at ESPN Radio also came out.
See what happens when you oppose us? You make us stronger. All right. Which city in the United States is responsible for the most anti-gay tweets? They did an analysis of this. It turns out to be Buffalo, New York, followed by
snowed in all winter, nothing else to do.
Arlington, Texas, Riverside, California, Fontana, California, Lincoln, Nebraska, and it goes down the line. The study was conducted by Adobo, a website that helps tenants find apartments.
I think it's basically like one guy in each city who sits around all day putting you read these comments on news reports or blogs, and it's always this one guy who's just full of homophobia. Yeah.
Relentless.
All right, St. Patrick's, they made an official announcement that the St. Patrick's Day parade here in New York City next week on the 17th will include the Irish LGBT...
Lavender and Green Alliance.
Yes, thank you.
And we will all march with them. They had and the St. Pat's for All parade was this past weekend. We went out there in Queens. It was wonderful. And they had a concert which was absolutely fantastic this week as well. So... we're having a good time celebrating St. Patrick's Day for the first time in 25 years.
All right, some violence stories, I think. In Bakersfield, California, Jasmine Sierra, a trans woman, is now officially the 5th trans person reported murdered this year.
In Walker County, Alabama, did we tell them about bisexual Nicholas Hawkins, who was brutally murdered on February 13th?
Yes.
Well, 6 people were arrested, but the sheriff at first said it wasn't a hate crime. Now he says, well, I don't know if it was.
Nicholas was the one who had been calling or texting his mother saying, "Mom, somebody's trying to kill me," but in fact he did end up murdered. In New York City, in the garage under Lincoln Center, a 29-year-old man was stabbed in the head by his boyfriend. Just some domestic violence story that was ugly.
In Long Beach, California, the police are being sued for an anti-gay sting operation near the restroom at Recreation Park. A guy named Rory McMaroney, 50 years old, is saying, this cop induced him to stimulation. No one was watching or enjoying it or seeing it, and therefore there was no crime. Under a 1979 ruling in California, his lawyer also says it's discriminatory because there were no stings of heterosexuals. Maroney was charged with indecent exposure, and if he was convicted of this, he would have to register as a sex offender for life.
That's the way these things go.
It's insane.
We've told that story over and over again.
Thank you for standing up and trying to stop this.
And a very depressing story from Conestoga High School in Pennsylvania. I must say that I was uncharacteristically shocked by this because I would have thought this was passé. But no, 3 members of the football team there have been charged with raping a freshman.
Well, no, they haven't. They didn't charge them with rape.
Well, they were charged with, you're right,
assault.
Physical assault.
Because they said there was no, the prosecutor said there has to be sexual gratification for them to do this. And they went after a 14-year-old kid with a broom handle in the hazing ritual.
Which they inserted in his rectum.
Yeah, the hazing ritual is called No Gay Thursday.
Yeah, and it takes place every Thursday.
And a lot of the kids had been avoiding the locker room and leaving the team over this without telling the coaches, who said they didn't know anything about it. And they said he was a freshman on the team and he was too cocky, he needed to be put in his place. Oh my God.
Horrible.
All right. And in Texas, Russ Towers, the gay clerk in Lamar County who issued marriage licenses proudly to gay couples, lost re-election 51-49 to a family values candidate with an extensive criminal record, Ruth Sisson, who would have been the first out Republican elected in Texas. He said, "I'm moving back to Dallas."
All right. Should we deal with Nancy Reagan before we go to international news?
Yes.
Oh, you reached for the same piece of paper. You'd think one mind.
Well,
Nancy Reagan, a lot of encomiums upon the occasion of her death, but a lot of remembering stories of her role in the AIDS epidemic, too. Specifically in 1985, when Rock Hudson was...
Their dear friend.
Yes, their dear friend Rock was about to die and had gone to Paris, desperate for treatment, and called the White House asking for help, or his aide did, to get into the military hospital in France where he thought he might get some treatment, and the hospital had been rejecting him. And the note got to Nancy Reagan, and she said, "We should not give him any special treatment just because he's a friend of ours." Rock did eventually get into the military hospital with no thanks to the White House, and, it didn't work, and he died.
Well, people have to remember the Reagan years. This is when the AIDS epidemic got started, 1981. He became president and AIDS got started. We're not linking that, but he didn't do anything. He didn't speak out for 6 years. And she knew better. She had gay friends, and she didn't, and first...
Reagan called him. Ronald Reagan called Rock Hudson when he was in the hospital in France to sympathize, but did not do anything to lift a finger to help him. Was cutting AIDS funding at the time and would not speak publicly about AIDS in a speech for 2 more years.
1987 in Washington, I was there. We got to boo him.
So there's all this lip service to friends about, oh, we sympathize, poor you, but they would not lift a finger, and in fact, they did everything they could not to do anything and to do bad things.
I was in meetings with government officials in Washington about adolescence, and I was in the restroom once when this guy comes up, because I had made a scene at the meeting, and the guy, he's from the Reagan administration, he says, "Oh, you got to understand, we can't say things like that. That would get us, we'd all get fired. It's just, they just...
Yeah, and welcome to the return of that attitude if Ted Cruz is elected president. Now, the only reason that President Reagan finally did speak out in 1987 was because...
6 years into the epidemic.
well, 6 years into our knowledge of the epidemic,
Yes.
was because his Surgeon General, C. Everett Koop, went behind his back and issued this really scathing report on the epidemic without the permission of the White House, because he knew if he'd run it by them, they would have said no and would have suppressed it. And that forced Reagan to, that and Elizabeth Taylor forced Reagan to say
Now,
something.
when he appointed an AIDS commission, it was full of right-wing nuts, including Cardinal O'Connor.
Yes.
But Nancy did, well, you can say, one good thing. She said, Ronnie, you got to have a gay on this commission. So they got Dr. Frank Lilly, who was on the board of GMHC from the Bronx, who was a geneticist, and they put him on the commission. He was a guest on this show.
But the commission didn't do much.
Well,
Because of the right-wing stacking, and because the administration didn't pay any attention.
right. Well, so, you know, silence in the face of all those gay friends she had.
Yeah, that's the thing. Selling out the friends. Selling out your friends.
Right.
All right. They had gay people visit the White House, pictures of Rock Hudson in the White House with them, and lots of other gay people. They employed gay people, but when it came to really putting anything
Closeted
on the line...
gay people.
Yes, well, that's the point. Anything public on the line, forget it. All right. On to international news.
Well, China has banned all programming depicting gay couples after removing the gay high school drama called Addicted from streaming services. The guidelines now ban abnormal sexual relationships and sexual behavior.
And other perversions.
But
On TV and online.
But in Taiwan, and we have some B-roll of this,
Yeah.
there's an ad.
Roll that tape.
There's an ad that McDonald's is doing. It shows a father talking to his son, and his son writes on his coffee cup that I like boys. And the father leaves the table like he's getting upset, but he goes to get a pen, and what he writes on the boy's cup is, I accept that you like boys. It's very moving to watch.
It's about a minute and a half, and it is gone viral in Taiwan, and is very controversial because you can see him in there, the boy suffering until his father comes back and does this. It's prolonged. The right-wing religious factions in Taiwan are very upset.
They're calling
that
for a
this
boycott. They say now, even if you just wanted to take a leak at a McDonald's, this is the quote from a religious group, you can't help but feel polluted.
Odd.
Oh, man.
You know, we laugh because otherwise we would cry or get violent.
We would cry. We'll put a link to this ad in our email this week.
Yeah.
And if you want to be on our email list, write to me, andy@gayusatv.org.
And Indonesia is continuing its crackdown. They're working on a Russian-style banning of homosexual propaganda, especially online.
All LGBT activities would be banned.
This effort is being led now by moderate Muslims, not the extremist right-wing Muslims. This is now the more middle-of-the-road Muslims.
So the LGBT groups are setting up safe houses and hotlines to protect our people.
And Brunei is moving ahead with its implementation of Sharia law, which, with any luck, by 2017, will have gay people subject to stoning to death.
Male sex.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Yes.
I could still go to Brunei.
You would just get whipped. No, I'm serious. That's what it says.
I understand.
And they also have stoning for adultery.
Yeah. All right.
So-
Good news. In
So
Colombia.
if Donald Trump visited, he would have to be stoned to death.
Are we now outing Donald?
As an adulterer?
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I missed that. I blanked
Okay.
out on that phrase.
All right.
In Colombia, in South America, a gay married couple, one Colombian and one Spanish, were married in Spain, and they have now been allowed to register their marriage in Colombia and receive all the rights and obligations of marriage.
This is a breakthrough. So what it means is Colombia, which is supposed to do it, won't do it. But if you're married elsewhere, they will now recognize it, which is what we went through in New York State for many years.
Yes, and I think it will be a state. You know, they've been arguing because the Constitutional Court there mandated recognition of same-sex couples in some way, and the legislature's been resisting. So maybe this will be a lever.
The president of the World Bank, Jim Young Kim, cut off some funds to Uganda after their anti-gay law, and he gave a talk this week, and he said the principle is that if something they support leads to discrimination and endangerment, we have to reject it. He says government officials elsewhere have assured him that they will keep anti-gay laws at bay because they're starting to take this stand. We can only hope.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty wild. In Mexico, they're getting close to full marriage rights, and a federal judge yelled at the government for discriminating against and insulting and stigmatizing same-sex couples.
In Sydney, Australia, the Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, Conservative, is the first to attend the gay and lesbian Mardi Gras. The opposition leader, Bill Shorten, marched with the Rainbow Labour Group. Turnbull still won't allow a vote on marriage in the parliament. He's scheduling a referendum, but that's still somewhat of a breakthrough.
The government and cops also apologized to LGBT activists who were arrested 38 years ago when they started this Mardi Gras as a more political protest march, and said, oh, maybe that wasn't a great idea.
In Rome, they had a huge protest against the government's scrapping of the gay adoption provision from the civil union bill. The watered-down bill has been passed by the Senate.
In Malta, the prime minister and the opposition leader announced their support of same-sex marriage, and LGBT activists are saying to Parliament, well, you know, both sides are in support of this, let's do a marriage bill.
In Germany, the out-gay member of Parliament Volker Beck was arrested for drug possession in Berlin, crystal meth. He plans to resign from leadership positions that he holds. He represents Cologne since 1994. This is a big gay activist. He went to the Russian demonstrations and the pride things and got himself beat up and arrested and all that stuff. So sorry to hear that.
In the Seychelles, the government and National Assembly are moving to decriminalize homosexuality, and they're going to do it without a public referendum. They understand that this is a human rights issue. In Poland, anti-gays have been attacking and vandalizing, breaking into LGBT rights group offices. In Hungary, Hungary vetoed a European Union proposal on LGBT protections. And Georgia, the country of Georgia, is pushing for a constitutional ban on same-sex marriage.
Maybe the governor of the Georgia state will talk to him over there, talk to them.
AIDS news.
All right.
Several things.
Well,
you talked about the origin of the epidemic, but a new DNA study of old blood samples shows that, as we've known for many years, that HIV came into the country a lot earlier than some people say. It came to New York City in 1970.
Probably via Haiti or another Caribbean country.
Yeah, we've known about Haiti. But what this does is it exonerates the stereotypical patient zero, the flight attendant Gaetan Dugas, who was targeted by Randy Shields in
Schultz.
Schultz and the band played on.
Yes.
That was just a lazy story. Yeah. Truvada as PrEP. The University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill has a study that says women need it daily, men not necessarily. That it accumulates less in vaginal regions than in the rectum, and therefore, for vaginal intercourse, you need more Truvada. Interesting.
Okay.
And this whole story about uterus transplants, now they're talking about maybe trans women could have uterus transplants and give birth. And if you can do that, then couldn't all men have uterus transplants?
What hath God wrought?
Well, you know, Gloria Steinem used to say, when men can get pregnant, abortion will be a sacrament.
Yes.
But they'd have to work at it in this case. Entertainment news.
Well, I watched The Real O'Neills with some hope. This is the new ABC sitcom about a Catholic family with a gay teen son, based on Dan Savage's work Not very funny, but the Catholic League's Bill Donahue felt the need to spend tens of thousands of dollars on an ad in the Times condemning it, and Dan Savage's many digs against Catholicism. And he compared Dan Savage to David Duke.
Get on with your reviews. We only have a couple of minutes.
All right. I saw Forrest Whitaker in Huey, which is going to close at the end of the month, Eugene O'Neill's play. Very lugubrious, halting when it ought to be an engaging, dark yarn. I admire Whitaker's film work, but this is not a good vehicle for him. And I saw a play called Red Speedo at the New York Theater Workshop. It's a new play by Lucas Hnath, Hnath. It's a play about the price of winning. In sport and in life. It's also kind of a Cain and Abel story about two brothers on the edge of a real pool. All hands on deck are terrific in it, and it's very thought-provoking and unpredictable. Do we run the picture there? It's
Yes.
of Zoe Winters
Yes.
and Max Bro, who plays the swimmer.
A viewer alerted me to something that's being written about online at MSN, at Tumblr, this dead lesbian syndrome that frequently on TV series they'll have lesbian characters, but just as frequently they kill them off. Lesbians are a vulnerable species on TV.
It was a cliche in all the early dramas about gays. I mean,
Lillian Hellman.
Yes.
The Federation of Gay Games has ended its effort to unite with Gay and Lesbian International Sport Association. They were running competing international competitions. The Federation of Gay Games will go it alone. Its next Gay Games is in Paris in August of 2018. They said it was too expensive to try to unite, but they have a cordial relationship. And May 14th, 2 p.m., La Mama in New York City, the Holly Woodlawn Memorial.
Oh, yes.
I will be out of town, damn it. All right, so that's it. Next week, James Essex of the ACLU, who is running a lot of the operations in the states over these RFRA bills and non-discrimination bills.
Religious Freedom Acts. I really want to hear from him. Some of these things are passing. And is there a way to overturn them through the courts?
Are they legal or are they not? It was clear to us that the Defense of Marriage Act was illegal, unconstitutional.
Yes, that took 17 years.
Well, that's the magic number. It took 17 years to overturn the Hardwick decision, too. That is the magic.
Well, it's all part of the backlash. It's part of the retrenchment that's going on out there. It's part of the fear that's in the land.
Yes.
That is driving this year's election.
Really, we're not out to hurt anyone or ruin your life. Some people find their lives are improved by relationships with us.
Yes.
But we will talk to James Essex. We've got a lot to talk to him about, good and bad. And as I said at the top of the show, he was in Italy in the midst of the civil unions battle, so we'll get an update from him on that. And again, if you want to be on our mailing list, write to Andy at
gayusatv.org.
And you can get our weekly show rundown to remind you to watch the show and give you the headlines of
And
what's
you can
on.
always see us at www.gayusatv.org anytime.
See you next week with James Essex.
Bye-bye. And listen to our podcast, right, Bill?